Hi everybody, this is Nate. Welcome to my channel and welcome Andre. Welcome back, Andre. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Before we get started, I just wanted to kind of remind people of two interesting things that I offer at this time of the year. One is a magazine that I created. The interesting part in this magazine is you have the Taroscope, so predictions for 2026, but using tarot cards and for each of the sign. You have some travel, you have some cooking, you have some interesting discussions from Nostradamus, Baba Vanga. And then I also have for sale, which is new, an oracle deck called the Voices of the Whales Oracle, which has a connection with the whales, and it comes with a big book. So I just wanted to put that out there before we get started as a little bit of promotional activity. But with no further ado, Andre, today is, I feel like a big day.
Yeah, it is a big day for all kinds of reasons. Although yesterday was a big day, the day before was a big day. We've had big days over and over and over. In fact, there are days where it's hour to hour.
Yes,
I'll be thinking, well, that video of some report that's already 2 hours old. I wonder what the 1 hour old video says because of how quickly
yes,
the news is moving. Yes.
that's true. It is interesting to me, and maybe kind of as we kind of go back and forth between astrology and card reading, the timing of the deal on the shutdown, and then the timing of the release of those emails, Epstein emails, they almost kind of happen at the same time, more or less. I was just curious to hear your thoughts about interesting to have those two events kind of like juxtaposing with each other.
Yes, well, it is it's definitely in the planets. I had talked about in my on my channel about how the Uranus cycle and especially to Trump, and I focused primarily because it's the most important is on his health and well-being because it's definitely connected to that. But as I often remind people, planets do double, triple, quadruple duty. They don't just affect one thing, they can affect multiple things or one
Right.
of the things you didn't necessarily point to. So the planet Uranus, it's a shocking energy. Uranus, and I can verify this, I can, uh, you know, from past experience, that what happens is you can get jarred, shocked by something that happens that you didn't expect. Now, on the one hand, you'd say, how could he not have expected this? Because this was liable to happen. But people like Trump, they live on their own, in their own view of in their own made up almost way of seeing the world. They're constantly distorting reality. And so you have to realize that they're going to often be in a delusional state. They may think, oh, okay, maybe that won't happen. It's in the background. But then the planet shifts, connects to his chart, and he gets this shock energy. And the shock here is that this thing is exploding now. But I mean, he knew that the House Democrats for sure were working with the Epstein estate to release those emails. And so, yeah, then you can start wondering, were they agreeing to do this because of that reason? I suspect, I think it's a bit coincidental in this case because there were disagreements. Some people thought we need to maintain the shutdown until they give us more concessions on healthcare, and some people thought not. But the point is, once the shutdown ended, Johnson had to open the government. And once he opens the government, he
That's
has
right.
to swear in um, uh, the woman from Arizona. And so then once that happened, the
It
Epstein is back in the news. And it turns out that whether it's coincidence or not, the estate then also released, more emails.
more emails.
Either way, plays to a very bad effect for Trump's chart. Clear, it's the shock of something very threatening. My feeling is that he is probably in a state of shock and panic right now. based on that particular planet. Yeah.
But is it, yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe two comments on that. I remember actually watching your show, talking about, I don't know what the right word is, but the transits or the different planets. Healthcare could mean for Trump the issue with the shutdown because it ties to healthcare, but it also ties with his own health. So you can have two
Yes.
layers of the same topic. And I
Correct.
remember you
Correct.
saying that on a video. The other aspect is that how can Trump be that shocked because he knew what he did, and so he knows his actions, obviously, unless he has like such a severe dementia that he doesn't remember what he did, but he knew what he did, and he
Right.
knew that, there's something about secrets. The secrets always come out. It's just a matter of time.
It's true. It's just that you have so many circles that are expanding. So that's true, obvious. The other energy in play is that this guy already had a really big head. He's got a big ego. Becoming president again inflated his head even more. He's getting older, so there's some of that. You get more distracted. You're not as focused. And I don't think it was as uppermost in his
Yeah.
mind. I think he thought it's under control now. I can always bring in another distraction to point at people in a different direction. And he may have thought that, he could control it, but he probably knows his fear would have to be that once the estate is releasing emails, well, you saw the recent emails. I mean, they're horrible because
It's
they
pretty.
say long before anything was happening, there are people talking to each other. It's not like they're doing
Yeah.
it today. They were saying this guy is horrible. He's a horrible person, and
Yes.
he was in with the girls. And that funny one where he almost hurt his nose because he had his face. He had his face so close to the window too because he wanted to look at the girls. It's
I
probably
didn't
the
see
young
it.
girls that are underage. That's the whole point, right? So
Well, I
it's
think the question is America, as you know, is an alleged pedophile. Is America willing to have an alleged pedophile as a president?
you know, I, the only problem with the reasoning around all this is that if you think anything will remove him, that's very hard to do. Very, very hard to do because he will do anything to, anything. Now he controls the Justice Department. He'll throw a lot of barriers, including, by the way, I mean, think this one through. So if they vote on the Epstein files, which we can do, you can do some tarot
Mhm.
now and we can talk about that. And they vote and they say they have to be released. Well, then you start delaying, you have to go to the Senate too. The House can say, yes, they must be released. Then the Senate has to approve it and the Senate might not. And then he can try to stall based on his presidential powers to limit what is being released. There might be a lot of redactions. But the problem with all this is that a lot of his own people want this. That's the problem. They built it up over years. Over years, they were saying there are these democratic pedophiles. Turns out, no.
There was
and,
an
and
email saying that Clinton was not on the island.
well,
It's on
let's
one
say,
email.
even if we said, how about if we just say, let's just say there's 50-50. Maybe
It's
they're half
still,
Democrats and
yes.
half Republicans because they're implicating some of the people like Larry Summers, and Bill Gates. I mean, there are all these people that had connections to this guy. But to assume that there are no Republicans is probably completely wrong. And especially to assume that this guy wasn't there when we know that he was there for a decade and a half. They were really good friends. So how can he not have had these connections? And we know what he's like. We know what this guy is like, right? So you know what it is? There's a lot of smoke. Most people will say, yeah, I see a lot of smoke. There's probably some fire. He says, no, 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 that's not true. And I notice many commentators are careful to say, well, we haven't seen any evidence yet that he is
Yes.
implicated. But, the more he must be sitting there thinking, I wonder if they have that email or that other email, or
or a
what could that other
photo
person have said?
or video or yes.
Yeah, or one of the survivors might step forward and find the courage to talk more openly. They're probably scared, rightfully so. But if one comes out, that happened to Bill Cosby and a number of other people. They were doing some terrible things. It became Harvey Weinstein, people like that. Once one person, two people, then you get a group, and then it's really hard to push back. And does this chart say that this could happen? 100%. He's a great risk. He's a great risk on multiple fronts, without any question. So yeah.
A, a comment before the cards, though, is that if what the MAGA people were thinking that those Epstein files were really, really bad, mostly for Democrats, then I can guarantee you that those files would have been released much sooner.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Although, see, this is where Republicans can say, no, that's not true because when Biden was there, they didn't release them, and the reason they didn't release them is because there were Democratic pedophiles, which I don't think is true. I think it's false.
Yeah.
But people will grab onto anything to
Okay.
support their theory, and there's a lot of
So
political bias.
let's just do a quick reading on basically kind of what's going to happen to the journey of those files because you need the approval from Congress, you need the approval from the Senate, and then you need, I believe, it's my understanding that maybe it goes to the president for approval of release. I'm not so sure. But let's just get a sense of what's going to happen with those files. Just asking the question like that.
I
What's gonna
think you might be correct. Yeah,
yes.
you go ahead, do it first, and then yes, yes.
What's gonna happen with those files? Will they fully come out, or okay? So first card, it's funny, not funny. It's the lovers. Uh, the topic is about relationships. Let's just call it this way. So it's like that. But I also see here the Five of Wands, which is a battle, and then the Hangman, which tend to believe that there's a battle. It's going to be fought. It's not a straight up release. And I think this is going to be stuck a little bit. The Hangman, it's not when things are not moving. And I get the sense that, well, my what I see from this and my intuition says that it will not be released through the normal channel, which means to Congress and the president, but it will be released through leaks, through other ways. It's my intuition. And whenever I read on the actual release from the proper channel, I always saw some blocks, which of course are very logical, or a situation that's stuck.
Right. Yeah, that does fit with what could happen. Yes, yes. The only what about the question though? If we say in its totality, this issue and what it is doing to the presidency,
Okay.
does it bring about the requisite level of damage, which is from the perspective of people that are seeking justice, where they think he's getting away with something horrible, does this become a serious problem for him?
Yeah, because it doesn't, those files don't need to be released for them to be a problem.
Right. Yeah.
They
Oh
are
no,
they are a
100%.
problem today, and it's not fully released because it comes in every conversation. I was just watching like there was the press conference at the Oval Office, and when they started to talk about Epstein, it just sent everyone away. So
Caroline, Caroline Levitt. Yeah. She's priceless, that
so
one.
how much damage do those files How much damage do those files do to Trump? Okay, first card here is the Ten of Swords. So it's quite significant because it's almost, with this card, it's like the backstabbing. So there, he will feel backstabbed. Like even trusting, usually what backstabs you is not just your friend, your enemies, but there could be your friend backstabbing you. The Seven of Swords is the thief, is the idea that he's trying to get away with it. So I believe it will be his strategy. Get away with it. Take those swords that you saw here and assume he's still alive, and then wrap them and take them away. So it's
Right.
like, what does that mean in Trump's language? Deny it, change the attention, create a problem to change the narrative. So it would not surprise me that he talks about, who knows, Venezuela, it could be anything. And the Five of Pentacles in this card, to me, that's always related to poverty and the economy. So let's not forget the context of this current situation. When we see this and everyone, let's imagine the economy was doing super well. Everyone had more money in their pockets. Then people look at it the other way. Like, well, these guys might be a crook or this or that, but the work that he's doing is good for people have jobs, people make money, people buy houses. It's the opposite.
Hmm.
So I think the context of this economy that's getting worse, if you might have seen that the actual October results for job reports were the worst in 22 years.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. 100%. Would you also would you tie the five of Pentacles? Could it be in any way associated with damage in the sense of people voting for you less, meaning the results of to your president? Is that valid, or would you need a different type of card to reflect such a
It's
thing?
well, yes, actually, I appreciate your question because I'm also going to talk about your question and something else. In the Five of Pentacles, it's a sense of loss. So you're losing support, you're losing,
Okay.
but
Okay.
also interestingly, you will smile at this one because Pentacles in the tarot, we always think money, but it's also health.
Oh,
Pentacles are health. So loss of health, that also could be damaging for his own health.
yeah. Well, I bet it is. I bet. I mean, with this guy, my feeling is that whenever he loses control of the message, I think he suffers. He suffers, and he's not exactly very good at managing his body and so forth, the way he eats and sleeps and so forth. So the last thing you need is these kinds of pressures. And people sometimes think, he gets away with everything. But recently he's been, pretty panicked about trying to contain the problem any way he can. I was stunned by that the news that came out that Lauren Boebert, they brought her into the White House and they were trying to the FBI and the Justice Pam Bondi and Kash Patel were pressuring her to not do it, to not support the release, and she said no. She just went and did it anyway. So you're starting to see now, as you put it, some of the backstabbing is from inside the house because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, they're doing their thing, and others, who are adamant about releasing the files. So it could be, perhaps it's possible that they won't be, the Senate may not approve the release. But you see, this is the problem. The whole thing for Republicans now is that every time they do that, people will say, well, you're hiding something, you're covering something
Exactly.
up. Why? So you're caught between a rock and a hard place. It's very hard to do something that won't damage you politically, which then gives Democrats something to talk about when they go for toward the next election. They'll say these guys, they're doing these things and they're protecting a president who is hiding something.
Well, especially that it's MAGA. It was he went to campaign during his campaign to say release the Epstein file. MAGA wants to release the Epstein file. If they're not, it just looks really, really bad that now that they can, they're not doing it. So I think it's just going to look absolutely terrible. Couple questions for you. I feel also with this whole situation of Epstein, this puts a lot of pressure on Bondi and Patel. So is
Mhm.
that also something you could see potentially on their respective charts? Because they're in the hot seat as well, those two right now.
I do. It's just that Bondi and Patel, the pressure is more next year, right?
Yeah,
But keep in mind, see, this happens a lot, is that people will be experiencing something like right now. I mean, we're in the thick of it. The news it's coming forward fast. But I remember saying things in February, March, wait till the end of the year. Oh, that's so far away. People want to know now what's going to happen now. But these themes, even when they're very serious, they can take a while, to develop. Not only that, but when I say we get into next year, once Saturn enters Aries, which happens in February and it starts to build spring and into summer, it gets more and more complicated for these people. Well, this topic almost certainly is going to be there as a topic, but there will be other topics as well. It's not just one thing. You get other things that can surface. So, for example, he's always trying to create fires. He makes fires to deflect attention. But sometimes there can be something real that is not deflecting.
yeah,
It's just something you've done, some big mistake you've made, or something that makes you look bad. So then it becomes the Epstein files plus that other thing that you just did. So bottom line, yes, it's coming, but Bondi had a very rough summer because she was being affected by the Saturn cycle then, and sure enough, the MAGA people were very angry at her because she had said, "Oh, I'll release the files," and suddenly she said, "No, there's nothing to see here." So it comes back again for
after
her
she said she had them on her desk.
on her desk, exactly. And then no, no, nothing here. Same with Patel. Patel spent years in podcasts repeating over and over, "We have to get the Epstein files. We have to get them out." Then he becomes the head of the FBI, and he said, "Oh, I looked at it, and there's nothing there." You have a big problem, man. That's going to be a big problem. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes. An interesting question for you. Um, we were talking about the false friends, the friends that pretends to be a friend, but then that turn their back and backstab him. Uh, kind of questions about that regarding someone that you haven't mentioned, but Vance. Would you qualify him as a false friend? Someone who plays both sides. Where does he stand with this whole thing? And this is something that I read, so I'm not saying this is true. This is something that I read somewhere that there's a rumor that Vance is actually himself in the files.
With Vance, the thing about Vance is that the one thing that is clearest to me is that he has his own ambitions to get, maybe to have the MAGA inheritance. He's the next person, which first of all, Trump has never endorsed that idea, number one.
Mhm.
And number two, his by far biggest problem is that for the 28 election, that chart is not good. That chart is the classic where people say no to you, you run into obstacles, you run into problems, including some of the rumors that are out there about his marriage potentially being an issue. And these people, the way they are, they create their own karma, their own outcomes
Yeah,
by their own behavior. So he's married to a woman from, with Indian. She's American, I believe, but she's of an Indian
Hindu.
family.
Yep.
And all the racists and literal Nazis. I mean, the Republican Party now has a subsection of people that are just awful, totally racist, including Nick Fuentes and his followers. I mean, they're total Nazis, and they openly say, "How can this guy ever become president is he should have a white wife, like they just said, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And Trump has been doing this for years, where he will not disavow those people because he needs
No,
their votes.
never.
In the first term, it was that other guy. Can't think of his name
Proud
now, but
Boys, the Proud Boys stuff. Is
no,
that
not
what
Proud
you?
Boys. There was another, the leader. There was another person that was clearly a white nationalist, and he pretended he didn't know him. And now it's, the white nationalists just shift, and you get a different white nationalist. But this is what they're dealing with, and then they get stuck because now JD Vance, some of the thought out there is, well, he has to get divorced and get a different wife, or otherwise he'll never be president, because with that wife, it's not going to happen. Now, maybe he can get around it, maybe, but Democrats don't like him. Democrats intensely dislike him. So his future is very, very uh, poor, in my opinion. Right?
And you
Absolutely.
so I agree. And you might have seen this video when Trump was asked, he was in the airplane and Rubio was in the background and say, he was talking about himself, the possibility or not of running for a third term. And he said, well, I probably wouldn't be able to run for a third term. And the journalist asked, who do you see, like who would be that you would like to see? And he said Rubio, and Rubio was right behind him. And so a lot of people commented that that's just very odd, but also a huge slap to Vance when you have a vice president and you just, suggest someone that is not the vice president, as you said, the one who continues the movement, the MAGA movement. So that really, I imagine Vance watching that and feeling like really bad. Trump said, well, Vance would be kind of another good candidate, but that was like a second choice.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And by the way, the person I was referring to a minute ago is David Duke. He
Oh
was
yeah,
the person, another one of these people that very openly, they say racist things. They don't think it's racist at all. And Trump was pretending, that, oh, I don't know who that guy is, but he doesn't want to lose the votes.
no,
And, but no, I mean, there's no, uh, well, he'd probably prefer his own son anyway, ahead of, JD Vance. But the point with JD Vance is he has a lot of problems that he's created by taking the shortcuts that he's taken to get to where he is, because he was at one point against Trump, and he was speaking like a normal person, and then he went completely the other way.
yeah,
And now he has to many times outright lie completely about something. I mean, make zero sense, because Trump is a master at telling you the opposite of what is true. He just repeats over and over again, the floor is the ceiling is the floor, up is down. Uh, there's no affordability, is a hoax. Affordability, which we can take up next if you like, is people go to the store, they see the prices. You can't tell
of
them
course.
it's a hoax. And by the way, they need many people. It hurts. It hurts if you have to pay more. You start to see your life, losing ground. You start to feel worse and worse. So yeah.
I mean, talking about hoax, I actually heard today Trump referring to the Epstein hoax.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the Epstein hoax. Everything he doesn't like is
Yeah,
a Democratic hoax. And
hoax.
the amazing thing is that Democrats themselves, because they don't want to create even more division, Gavin Newsom is becoming the exception to this, where he will blatantly say things like, who are we kidding here? Who do you think
Mhm.
pays all the bills? It's the blue states, right? But many times Democrats could have said, back in the day, he kept saying, oh, this is all the Democrats. They were all Republicans that were coming after him during the first term. That whole Russia issue, they were all
Yes,
Republicans. All of them. Every single person that gave him a hard time was a Republican. And he kept saying it was the Democrats. And Democrats should have said, hold on a second. When was Jim Comey? Jim Comey's a Republican.
yes.
Jim Comey, now he's really mad at Jim Comey. The next guy he put in there, another Republican, Christopher Wray. They're all Republicans. This is being done by Democrats. No,
Right.
no. But if Democrats don't push back, then people can get the idea, especially as MAGA people can think, Yes, he's telling the truth. He's not telling the truth. He's a liar. He's a stone cold liar. This man is lies around the clock. And now Vance, who I think years ago wanted to be more of a truth teller, he's forced to because all the time things happen and he has to deny, he has to say something that isn't true. This will all come back. When you go into an
Yes.
election cycle, it'll come back. And this was one of the things that assisted Trump a great deal because Biden was becoming very old. He wasn't nearly as agile as he once was, and in politics, that can become a huge problem.
Mhm.
And I'm talking about even when Biden won. Never mind, by the end, he had lost even more of that. But if you're battling against someone like Gavin Newsom, you're going to have a big problem
Oh
because
yeah.
that guy will tell you 100%. Here's what it is, and he'll make sense. And then many of the MAGA people will realize, yeah, okay, besides which he's white, and they'll say, well, he's white, right? So I mean, it's incredible. It's just incredible that we have
It
to overcome this. Even we're back again. This is the period where the U.S. is grappling again with the race issue, which is that civil war of the 1860s. The Neptune returned to that point.
yes.
It's like that. Yeah.
It's um maybe switching gears unless you want to ask
No, no,
me a
that's good.
question. I think maybe kind of pivoting away from Epstein, probably a word about, well, the Democrats ending up the shutdown and what does it mean for the Affordable Care Act?
Good.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, what a I feel like this decision, you can really look at it in different ways. You have people that, the SNAP benefits, which were taken as a hostage, which is absolutely cruel. And
Mhm.
you have the safety issues with traveling that were hot. And you also not having the release of the file in some ways because that was blocked by the same token. But obviously the price to pay is pretty hefty as well because this those premiums will, and I hope not, but I'm afraid will be a big issue for Americans. And so what
Mm.
kind of, from, I don't know how you looked at this from an astrology standpoint, the reaching the deal, but also the impact on the ACA.
Well, I'm trying to be optimistic about it from the vantage point that, in practical terms, yes, the shutdown ended, but now there could be another shutdown in January for
That's true.
essentially the same reason. That's the first thing. Second thing is now the topic is foremost in people's minds, and especially because the premiums will go up if nothing is done. And so then that becomes a big, big topic for the election, which to me is a suicidal move if they do nothing. And astrologically, what caught my eye is that the end of the shutdown came on the Jupiter station, Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer is the sign of food, which was the key thing that they were
Yeah.
they were tracking as these people are going to starve. But the other planet that is in play is Saturn in Pisces, which is where it is. Last bit of Saturn in Pisces, it'll finally in February goes into Aries till 2028. Pisces is the sign of medicine, hospitals, as well as if you're doing like the idea of Obamacare, the idea of subsidized safety net medicine. And it's in a trine to Jupiter, and that usually is going to be a good thing. And so I'm trying to be optimistic in the sense that when I look at the plight that Republicans are in, they don't have much choice here. I think if they say, no way, we're not going to do anything, this is going to be a disaster, It's going to be a disaster for them because that'll be what Democrats will run, and you'll have all these people paying more for their premiums. To me, that you add that to the fact that they got their clock cleaned in those elections. It
Yes.
was a disaster. You know how you know it's a disaster? Because sloppy Steve Bannon said in one night Democrats undid 10 years of work that we've been doing. That's Steve
I didn't.
Bannon.
Wow.
So they know this is a big problem. You're going to make it even worse. So I would be beyond amazed if they just said, you know what, nothing. And if they do something like, okay, well, we'll just give them a little bit, that's no good either because that'll mean they're still climbing. My feeling is what they might do is extend it for a while, like say,
Ah,
we'll extend it uh, to the beginning of 27 because that way it won't affect the
the election.
elections. That might be the the agreement. And for them, if they're the ones, this was one of those things where Democrats, they couldn't agree because that would have been a loss of face. If you say, okay, we'll do it, they would have looked stupid. But if they now say, in some way, they come up with some reasoning to say, okay, for a year, then they're the ones doing it, so then they can take credit for something that they were trying to destroy. So people will say, I mean, that's the way it was before. So why are you taking any credit? But at least it's coming through them, and then
Yes,
that way they look a little better. That's to me the most likely scenario. But I'm totally open to you throwing the cards and saying, you
yes.
know what, Andre, that's not going to happen.
But
It's all
the
going to
other
go
thing,
away.
yeah. The other thing is, I mean, intuitively, I didn't actually pull cards, but this vote that is promised, I don't see this vote going anywhere. Part
Hmm.
of the shutdown deal saying we're gonna have a vote on it.
Hmm.
I just don't foresee this vote.
Do you foresee the vote, or you foresee a vote that doesn't do anything?
Yes, I feel like they will vote, but it would just be useless. It will not allow the benefits to continue. I don't get the sense that the vote will help with the 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 premiums.
So you're saying you're intuiting that what I was just saying is less likely to happen than that the
Yes,
premiums are going to go up. People are going to be paying more. That's
yes,
it. That's
yes. But let me pull some cards here. But I feel that this promise of a vote is not leading to to an improvement on the cost. But let's see. What will be the outcome of the ACA premium vote? It would be
Well, not
in
the vote, but what we want to know
the
is whether or not, because the
okay.
vote in a way doesn't matter. What we want to know is are these premiums going to go up? We don't care whether it's a vote
Okay.
or
Doesn't matter
whether,
how they
yeah.
will those premiums go up like in January?
Well, yeah, that they're set to. That's
Yeah.
what's going to
Yeah.
happen. The next round of, insurance, it's year to year.
Will the premiums go up in January? The Hermit, to me, when I see that, I've always feel of people that are left out. So that doesn't give me a good feeling. The Four of Pentacles, it's a hold on the money. So I don't feel like this is also telling me that they will actually drop. And then there's the Five of Cups. The interesting aspect with the Five of Cups is that you have the two cups standing, and then the three cups thrown away of that fell down. So that could indicate, and then you see also this card, this person look at Congress, the capital. And so it's a little bit of a mixed bag, right? Because you still have two and versus three, but you lose more than you win here. Out of the
Mhm.
five, three are down, what two are up. So I feel that this is not going to be good for people. It's going to impact their money. There might be, the way that I'm reading this, it would say, I would translate it, it might not increase as much, but it will still increase.
Hmm. Yeah, the only question is for it not to increase as much, they would have to subsidize because the
Yes,
government. So if they don't subsidize that level, whatever it is,
yes,
then as it is now, they'll go up a lot.
yes,
They'll go up.
yes. So they're the way that if we continue with this interpretation, the Republicans will have to give something so that they don't go up as much. They will have to find money somewhere else.
Right, right. Yeah, well, okay. Let's see. Let's see because
Let's
this
see.
this is going to be a it's going to be a topic going into the winter, which could lead to another shutdown. I continue to say that for Trump, the double duty pattern of he's got some pretty serious health liabilities, but the whole topic of health is not a good topic for him. You already saw that in 2020. Not only did he get COVID, COVID destroyed him. That was the
Oh, that's
thing
right.
that, yeah, so
That's right.
health,
That's right.
anything to do with health, he should stay away from, right? And the fact that he is involved in this at all means it's going to hurt, it's going to hurt his chances. So I know.
But I mean, like, just directionally, his own health, you see it getting worse and worse this end of year, early next year. I mean,
He's in a zone where when you combine what is now visible to everyone, it's pretty obvious there's a cognitive decline, physical decline. He's doing MRIs 3 months after doing the annual. This is highly suspicious. And the planets are there such that the zone is very dangerous. But if he escapes out of that zone, he runs into another one because next year it'll be Saturn uh, hitting into a health zone. So then there are two planets, Saturn and Eris, doing the same thing, and it's not good. It's not good because this is where astrology at times can be infuriating, where you see this stormy area and then it happens in the next zone where it appears to be less all inclusive, but it's inclusive enough because at a certain age it doesn't take much, for
no.
something to go badly wrong. And not to mention that, as I said before, the the energy next year, in a way like this year too, but even more so, includes multiple things that are happening at once. Like for example, where Saturn is going is very unfriendly for all legal rulings, and he's depending on these legal rulings that he's getting. And so far, they've kind of, they went along with him already. The tariffs don't look good. The Supreme Court is looking ready to say, no, 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 you got to go through this other. You can't do that. Which, by the way, he has ways out of that, according to
Yes.
what he could maneuver out of there. But overall, that area becomes more difficult, more setbacks, and then things like how the universities have been cooperating with him. That'll probably go down. The immigration issue, because that's the same house, becomes more and more of a problem. Already, it's very unpopular. It'll probably get worse, right? So there are all these things stacking
Building
up,
block.
and the top level, the most dangerous, is health, because it's hitting into that house. And the Epstein material remains totally alive. This guy will never see the end as long as he lives, because the key planet, which is responsible, as I see it, is the planetoid that bumped Pluto from its planetary status. That planet happens to be in a place now where it's hardly moving. So it's there until 2033. It's such a ridiculous long time that he'll be 89 or something. It's not even worth considering. And it relates to the revenge of women, basically, women's
Oh,
revenge. So, yes, that could be judges too, that could be other factors, but this is the clearest pathway. When you see a planet like that, connecting it to these dark secrets, things that you've done, and now they're coming back to get you. And because it surfaced in July on the station, the next stop is January. That's the next station when we should see further explosions related to the Epstein matter, which could even be worse than these. And this is bad. It's bad, bad, bad.
it's
What
already
happened
really bad.
yesterday
Yes.
is very, very bad, because the primary reason it's really bad, you don't have to convince Democrats. They already know. The problem is that he has all these people in his, well, you're seeing in his group, Lauren Boebert, MTG, others, and in the voting bloc, right? Why do you think the election was such a big, big result? I'm telling you, a lot of these Republican voters stayed home. They're
Yeah.
demoralized, right? They just thought, oh my God, he told us he was going to lower prices, you know.
The economy, I know, let's not forget the job aspect. I think it's the one of the biggest concern here
It's
is
terrible. It's terrible. And if I were a Democrat running in the next election, you know what I would be saying to the farmers? He's put you on unemployment insurance. This guy took away all your business, and then he takes taxpayer money and he gives it to you. This is He's putting you on unemployment insurance. That's what he's turned you into. So good luck with that, right? He really, this guy, I mean, people, it's amazing that these MAGA people put in someone who has bankrupted multiple casinos, right? So I don't know if you know the other funny thing. This is the other thing about Trump and how, in a sense, he's like this, brilliant manipulator, and he's so out to lunch in the sense of basic things that anyone would have said to him, boy, you should be careful with that. That could be a problem. He put in an AI engine, on the Truth Social. You can now ask questions of the engine. So like, how Elon Musk has this engine called Grok, which for a while caused him problems because he made it, the Grok started talking like a Nazi, but he pulled back on that.
Yes,
So
yes,
now
yes.
Grok is more level. Well, Trump's AI, if you go in there and you say to it, did Trump win the 2020 election? No. It'll answer exactly what happened. Or you say to it, does Trump lie a lot? Yes. And it starts to list. So then you think, well, why are you doing this? Anybody can check this. Now, of course, his people are less likely to check.
Not checking
But
those questions. Yeah, but
no, but it's an example of how he leaves open doors in the strangest places
that
because
can
he's very
backfire.
undisciplined.
Yes.
Exactly, it backfires, and I saw this video. Tim Miller of the Bulwark, he was just laughing. I mean, I laughed too. I had a great laugh because he asked 5 or 6 questions, and boom, boom, boom. This engine was telling the truth.
Truth.
It was just saying, here's what happened. Here's why. It's the opposite of what he says, right? So, very interesting the times we live in.
Absolutely. Well, Andre, it was
Yeah.
a pleasure having you here, and looking forward to our next discussion in December. I thank you. Thanks everyone for watching, whether you are on my channel or Andre's channel. It's always a pleasure, and people seem to enjoy a lot. So please like, subscribe to Andre's channel or mine. It really helps us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.